Bem-vindo, bem-vinda ao Yoga para Você. Meu nome é Ricardo Mitra e hoje eu estou aqui com um dos meus principais professores de meditação, monge budista da linha Theravada, Bhante Rahula, um monge americano. Ele é monge há mais de 40 anos e agora a gente acabou de fazer um retiro aqui no Brasil e eu consegui essa oportunidade dessa entrevista. Espero que vocês gostem. Então agora eu vou perguntar para o Bhante Rahula qual a sua história, qual a sua relação com o yoga, falar um pouquinho dela, como ela se relaciona com a sua história dentro do budismo.
Well, I took my first meditation course in Nepal, and at that time I had just been wandering on the hippie trail for about 2 years, and I wasn't in very good shape, but I had this strong desire to learn meditation. And so I went to a 1-month course near Kathmandu, Nepal, and we started to practice meditation, and I was having some pains. And then I noticed a few guys who were doing some exercise out behind the yoga tent, or the meditation tent. And I asked them, what are you doing? And they said, oh, we're practicing yoga. And I said, oh. So I watched them and I learned a few of their exercises. And I did a few of these exercises, and then I noticed that I had less pains in my meditation, and I was more awake also when I did the meditation. So then I said, oh, this is something good, this yoga. So I started to practice that. And then after the course, I continued to get some other books and try to learn it on my own. And I found that doing more of that helped me to meditate. But I was primarily interested in the Buddhist meditation. But I didn't know much about yoga at the time. But I got some more books and learned. And later on, before I became a monk, I went and stayed for 6 months in a yoga ashram in Pondicherry, South India, before I became a monk. And then after I became a monk, I continued to use that as a help for my meditation.
Yeah. Muito bom. E como você vê a relação da sua prática de asanas, de Hatha Yoga, com a sua prática de meditação? Como elas se conectam?
Well, meditation practice, for the most part, is a mental exercise. Developing plain atenção. Oh, excuse me.
You can talk in Portuguese, no problem.
Developing plain atenção e concentração. And meditation happens between the brain and the nervous system, the spinal column and the nervous system. And so it's important to be able to keep the posture straight and the head and spine in a straight line, so that the information from the senses can be easily relayed through the nervous system to the brain, where you register the consciousness. So it's important to keep the back straight in meditation. But for so many people, beginners, especially in Westerners, because they don't do the proper exercise, and it's difficult to keep their chin up, so that their chin goes down because their neck muscles are weak. And then their spine, back muscles are weak, so they can't keep the back straight. So yoga exercise, especially exercises that flex your spinal column, and also exercises that help to be flexible in your hips and knees and ankles. These are the main parts of the body affected by meditation. It gets lots of stress. And we need to have a good circulation of the prana energy, the vital force through the body circulates through the nerves and the nadis. So, and most people also, because they don't breathe properly, the full deep breathing is very important also to oxygenate the blood, so it is more active and we stay more awake. So the three biggest problems in meditation are sleepiness, too many thoughts, and physical pain. In physical pain, part of that comes when the energy is not flowing properly. And so the energy gets blocked, and then you get pains in different places. So the yoga exercises, the asanas, coupled with the deep breathing, helps to keep the joints loose and the muscles soft and flexible so that the prana energy can freely circulate to the deepest corners and cells of the body, mind, nervous system. Therefore, charging up the cells, with energy. So you feel more alive and awake. And it's the aliveness of the body. Meditation starts with being centered and grounded in the body, to have some good feeling that helps to keep the mind alert. So all of that is very important for learning meditation, especially in the beginning for beginners. So that's what I found in my own experience. Because normally in Buddhist monasteries, meditation, they don't talk about yoga very much. Buddhism is more kind of a intellectual, and meditation is seen as just a mental exercise. But really, meditation is half physical and half mental. And the body affects the mind affects the body. If the body is sick and weak, the mind will also be sick and weak, especially for beginners. So it's very important to have a body that feels good and have the strength and energy to stay awake and to be able to sit for long periods of time in order to reach deeper levels of pleine attention, concentration, and then also the development of sabiduria, or mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom.
Realmente a prática de yoga, a prática de asana, de hatha, ela é muito importante na sua prática, na sua vida pessoal.
Well, in my own life, particularly being a Buddhist monk, that often Buddhists had a negative idea about yoga, thinking the Buddha didn't really talk about yoga as such, so we shouldn't practice that, and they kind of neglect the body. But I see so many Buddhist monks who couldn't meditate because their bodies were so stiff that they easily went to sleep, or they had too much pain. They would get up after 5 minutes and go away. So, but yoga doesn't belong to, it's not necessarily belong to religion, even though it started within Hinduism. Yoga is a science. It's a science of body and mind. And Buddhism specifically is more of a science of the mind. But in yoga, they treat the body and mind as an integrated whole. So that's what I liked about the yoga. And for my personal life and my own personal meditation practice, I saw that was very important. And I started teaching. My very first retreats that I started teaching 40 years ago integrated the practice of certain yoga exercises and deep breathing with the meditation. And especially Western people really responded to that, and they really liked the way that that fit together. And even now when I'm teaching in India and in Sri Lanka, even those traditional Buddhist people, they're also now appreciating the practice of yoga in the retreat because it helps them to sit with less pain. And so I continue to practice yoga. After 40 years, I'm still practicing, maybe not as much as I used to, but once your body gets to a certain level of flexibility, it doesn't take a lot to keep it that way. For people who are just starting and very stiff, it takes a lot of practice to gradually loosen up the body, get it flexible, develop your breathing. But once you've developed it, it doesn't take a lot to maintain. So that's what I'm doing in my daily life. Because I'm teaching yoga in the retreats, I have to also keep up my own practice. So that's an incentive to keep my body up too. And especially as I'm getting older now, then that's even more important to be able to maintain a good state of flexibility. So that's how I've seen that importance of the yoga, the relationship. And also to add to that, in my experience of visiting many ashrams in India and even yoga centers in the West, the emphasis is on the body and not so much in long periods of meditation as the Buddhists do. And in the Buddhist monasteries, they neglect the body. So in that way, as I mentioned, I've tried to integrate and balance those two, because that way those energies, they help to support each other. The mind supports the body, and the body supports the mind to reach that state of equilibrium.
Ok. Bhante Rahula, eu queria aproveitar um pouco do seu conhecimento, da sua sabedoria, para dar uma dica, um movimento de ação para quem está nos assistindo. Então, eu escuto muito das pessoas que elas não começam a meditar, elas querem meditar, têm um desejo pela meditação, mas não querem porque falam que a minha mente é muito confusa, é muito agitada. Então, você desse alguma dica para essas pessoas e, ao mesmo tempo, também alguma dica para aqueles que já meditaram, eles querem manter o hábito da meditação, a constância, mas eles não conseguem manter a prática da meditação. Então, quais dicas você poderia dar para essas pessoas?
It's true that people find it difficult to actually start to meditate because they have different ideas about what meditation is, and maybe their body is really stiff or their mind is confused. But of course, everybody starts out that way, and now there's meditations becoming very popular around the whole world, and the effects of benefits of meditation are being talked about in so many books and television shows. So people have the desire to want to learn, but it's overcoming that initial fear. And so it's good to have to go to a few classes where you have a guided meditation, you have a teacher who explains the simple technique, and you start out fairly simple. And it's also good to teach the people to do a few yoga exercises. Because that's the biggest discouraging thing. People sit down and immediately, so much pain, and they give up. But if you just, give them just 3 or 4 simple stretches to do, when they sit down, at least, and then tell them to do some deep breathing and give them a simple technique to do, like counting their breaths from 1 to 10, and so on. You have to do it little by little. Start out with just 5 minutes, then increase it to gradually 10 minutes. And it's good to meditate with others. If a person just tries to meditate on their own at home, just explain the technique, and they go home, and 9 times out of 10 they'll fail because they don't have the discipline. So, and then after going to some classes, then they should try to go to a one-day workshop, and then maybe a weekend retreat, and that way they don't get totally discouraged. And then people that have already been meditating for some time, they get that initial enthusiasm and they meditate for a while, but they might meditate for once or twice a day for 30 minutes. And then maybe some tragedy happens in their life, or some kind of problem in their life, whether it's health or it's some relationship issue, and so they may stop meditating for a while. And then they find that their mind starts to get confused again, and they go, I need to go to meditation again. So they go to a retreat. I've been teaching for now over 35 years, and I hear this from so many of my students because I go back to the same places every 1 or 2 years, and they tell me that after the retreat, they get enthusiastic, they go home, they try to practice, but after a few days, they gradually kind of lose the practice. And then they have to go to retreat each year as a kind of a battery charge. But so I teach them how to do M&Ms. The average person, when he says sit down to meditate for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, it's like a fear comes into their mind. Oh, so many things to do and the pain. So I teach them the practice of the M&M. That means during the day, for every hour, try to stop for 1 minute and bring your attention to the body, to feel the feet grounded to the floor. Take a few slow, deep breaths. Hold the breath in a few moments and then relax. And just do 1 minute of meditation. Let go of the past and future. Try to feel the breathing body, and then continue, until the next hour. But if you try to do that, practice 1 minute of meditation every hour through the day, then you find at the end of the day you're not so stressed out, and you might feel like meditating a little longer in the evening. But ideally, for people to maintain a proper practice, to meditate, say in the morning for a minimum of 20 minutes, and then during the day try to do these 1 minute pauses, 1 minute meditations through the day, and in the evening to sit again before sleeping, even if it's just for 10 or 15 minutes, just to let go of any negative thoughts, maybe send out thoughts of metta, to especially if you had any anger during the day, to let go of that, So that's the way that people can try to develop and then maintain the practice, and you can get the benefit from that. Because again, meditation is learning. It's like anything else, like lifting weights, for example. If you stop lifting weights for a while, your muscles get flabby and then you get weak again. So meditation is the muscle for our mind, the muscle of paying attention, or the muscle of mindfulness and concentration, and also wisdom. We have to keep on reflecting, because there's so many negative vibrations that come at us from all angles of our life. And we need that special time to relax, do something good for our body, do some exercise, and to meditate. Because this is the most important thing we have. This body and mind is the only thing that is yours. Everything else in the world can disappear, be taken away from you. But until you die, this body and mind is the only thing that you really have, that you can rely on. And it's your cave, it's your refuge, so we have to take care of it. And that's what yoga practice and meditation practice is doing. It's helping to take care of the most precious thing that we have, which is this body and mind.
Thank you for your wisdom.
You're welcome.
Muito obrigado pela sua sabedoria, muito obrigado pelas suas palavras, pela sua presença. Agora, podendo tocar mais e mais pessoas que ainda não te conhecem pessoalmente, mas que buscam a meditação, buscam o autoconhecimento, para que você possa ajudá-los um pouco também. Espero que vocês tenham gostado. Namastê, ótima prática de yoga para você.
So that was a good answer?
Wow, perfect. Well, I can't imagine something better than you.
No, because I've been giving